Here's a wonderful example of how HORARY can help us, our loved ones, and even our pets with health issues. We're going to determine if a person's dog should be taken to the vet for further care or if it's going to recover on its own. Here's the chart. The querent is a friend of mine who had a dog, and her dog had a kind of an abscess close to his tail. The abscess was open. It didn't look good. It had happened before and it had healed on its own, but this time it happened and she was concerned because it had been a couple of days and it didn't go away. So she wanted to know, is this going to get better or should I take him to the vet? Small animals are house 6, so her dog is signified by Mars. The house position of Mars and Venus is noteworthy. A dog's anatomy is similar to a human's anatomy in a HORARY chart. So the tail or the anus is the 8th from the 1st, so we count 8 houses from the 6th in this case, and that's where we find those planets, eloquently showing the area where the problem is. What we have to do for a prognosis is to determine if Mars is getting better or not. If he gets better, he doesn't need to go to a vet. But if he doesn't get better, go to the vet is the right decision. If Mars is going to meet a nice planet, it's going to get better. If it's a bad planet, it's going to get worse. If it changes signs and it gains dignity, it's going to get better. If it loses dignity by changing signs, it's going to get worse. What's going to happen to Mars next? Here I have to make a comment that you cannot see, but it's important for the astrologer to know. Normally Mars is slower than Venus, but here Mars is faster because Venus was retrograde recently. So the next thing that's going to happen is that Mars is going to meet Venus. Venus is not separating from Mars here. They are applying. So is this applying conjunction between Mars and Venus a good thing for Mars or a bad thing? They are very near already, so the influence is already there. Basically, whatever Venus is doing to Mars, it's going to do more of it. But Venus is in its detriment in Scorpio, so its influence on Mars is not a good one. There is a good candidate for what Venus means. The chart will tell us, and it will help her heal the dog. Whatever is happening to Mars is not getting better. It's too near Venus, and it's Venus that's upsetting Mars. If Mars was separating from Venus, it would mean that it's getting better because it would be leaving Venus behind. But this is not the case here. That tells us that the dog should be taken to the vet. The question is answered. And that's what she did. And they treated him and he got better later. But the chart is also telling us why he had this abscess near his tail. Let's look at what Venus means. Here we see that Venus rules the 2nd from the 6th, and the 2nd from the 6th is the dog's foot. The moon is also telling us to look at house 2. We are not doing a full diagnosis, but if we wanted to, we would look at Venus, so this dog has a pretty considerable excess of water. And the food that he's eating is very likely exacerbating the amount of water in his body. I actually know the dog, and it is a pretty phlegmatic dog to start with. Just take a quick look at his picture, so it wouldn't be difficult to overwhelm it with more moisture and coldness. So the chart is telling us that whatever food she's giving her dog is contributing to the problem that he has. Now that we know what Venus means, let's go back and see what the relationship between Venus and Mars is. We do that by analyzing their receptions. First, let's remember Venus is in its own detriment, so it's not in good shape. Basically, the dog is eating bad food. Mars in Scorpio is in the detriment of Venus, so the dog despises the food. And Venus is in the sign of Mars, so Venus feeds him. But at the same time, it creates a whole lot of problems. So with that information, she can change his diet and avoid that happening in the future. It's quite possible that the reason it happened in the past is because she was giving him the wrong food. Later on, she considered different types of food and asked me HORARYs about the foods. And I told her which ones were good and which ones were not good. So that's another thing that HORARY can do. And she was able to change his food eventually and prevent this problem from happening again. To learn more about traditional medical astrology and how it can assist us in healthcare, check out the links in the description and follow me on social media. Thanks for watching. Till next time.